Welcome back to my channel. To those of you who are new here, my name is Yasmin. I'm very happy to have you here with me today. On this side of YouTube, we're all about healing, self-love, taking care of ourselves, and that's what I try to do with you in these videos. So I hope you enjoy, and if you feel inclined, hit that subscribe button down below to see more videos like this one. Today, I want to talk about something that I get asked about a lot, which is what to do when you're bored and alone. In the past, I used to be a very codependent person, always with people, and I still am a somewhat codependent person, but I have put a lot of work into changing that and into becoming more independent, more able to spend time on my own and find things to do on my own that I truly enjoy and that lead to me not feeling so bored and not really knowing what to do with myself. And I feel that over time, through practicing that and through making a point to spend time alone and sit with the discomfort and find things to do and form new habits, I have become really good at being alone, which is surprising for me coming from a place where I was always needing to be with people and wanting to avoid being alone at all costs. So this is something that I am very passionate about these days, is making time to be with myself. And I think it's truly a skill that we need to develop in life, being alone, because there are times where we're just bound to be alone. There are things that we have to go through alone. There are instances in which we're kind of forced to be alone. A good example of this is a few years back, I was traveling. I was in Morocco visiting family, and I ended my trip in Europe with my boyfriend at the time, and he had to book a different flight from mine. So he got on a flight back to the US, and everything was fine. He got back home. I was super uncomfortable in the first place about traveling alone because I was still very codependent at this point, and traveling from Europe to the US was just this big thing that I had never done alone, and so I was super uncomfortable going into it. And then I get on the plane and I'm like, okay, like I'm alone, but I'm going to be home soon. It's fine. And the plane never takes off. There were issues and the plane just never took off. And we all had to get off the plane. Couldn't get another flight until the next day. So I'm in this whole situation in Europe alone. And it was very uncomfortable for me. And I kind of just, at that point, had already started down my journey of trying to embrace discomfort and trying to do something other than like break down and cry in a situation like that. So, although I was feeling very uncomfortable, very much like I wish I had been on the flight with my boyfriend, I don't want to be in this situation right now, I kind of just forced myself to embrace it, and I connected with some people, some other young people that were on the same flight, made some friends, and just went with it and embraced the situation I was in alone with strangers. And it was a very huge moment for me because I had never experienced anything like that before, and I grew so much from having to learn how to navigate that on my own. And I reflect on that all the time because it led to me growing in so many ways. And so my point here is that I think there's so much good that can come from being alone, and the universe knows that. And so at times when we're kind of avoiding being alone, we get forced into these situations like the one I was in, and we have to be alone. And so I think there are points in life where it is just completely unavoidable. We will be alone and we will have to navigate that. And I think that is a very powerful, beautiful thing when we take into consideration the growth that comes from situations like that. So I figured that many other people out there are dealing with something similar where you don't really know what to do when you're alone and you resort to just kind of going on your phone and going on social media and doing anything to escape the fact that you're bored and alone. And I wanted to provide you with 10 things that I kind of have in my repertoire. I always forget words when I'm filming YouTube videos. Repertoire? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. These are 10 things that I draw from when I am alone and bored, and I think they could be very helpful to someone who doesn't really know what to do when you are bored and alone. So, with that being said, let's get into this list. The first thing I would recommend to do if you're bored and alone, or not even the first thing, just one of the things that I would recommend, is to move your body in some way. I am huge into working out, lifting weights, going to the gym. So that's definitely an option and definitely something I do on a daily basis that kind of fills up some time in which I maybe would have been bored and not really knowing what to do with myself. Although not everyone is going to want to go to the gym, not everyone has a membership, etc. If that is something you're interested in, check out my other videos in which I go into how to get into working out, how to build a workout routine, all of that. But if you're someone who isn't really interested in going to the gym and doesn't want to make time for that, I would say just move your body at home. Do a quick 10-20 minute ab workout or have a dance party. I love to have little dance parties with myself. I just throw on some good music and I dance to it, and it's so fun and freeing to just be on your own dancing. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm bored and alone. So highly recommend a solo dance party or some sort of movement, whatever it is for you. The second thing that I would recommend adding to your list of things to do when you're bored and alone is to read. One of my recent YouTube videos is all about reading and some books that I recommend that changed my life. I think reading is an amazing, powerful habit to pick up. I honestly believe everyone should read or listen to audiobooks or something because there is so much knowledge and wisdom to be gained from books that you won't necessarily happen upon in other places. So read a book or journal. I kind of group those together because, they're in the same category, but I love both of those, and I think those are go-tos for me if I'm bored and alone and don't know what to do with myself, because they occupy your mind, they occupy your body, and you grow from them, from both reading and journaling. So I think they're great things to do when you are feeling bored and alone. Another thing that I would recommend to do when you are feeling bored is to meditate or do some yoga, something where you are taking a step back from life and connecting with your breath, maybe moving your body a little bit, whatever it looks like for you. Again, I have a video on how to meditate. But yeah, these are great things to do, and I think very powerful ways to spend your time when you don't really know what else to do with it. Something else that I really love to do when I'm feeling bored is take a walk outside. And no matter what the weather is, I've tried to embrace the cold weather here in Minnesota this year, and it's worked. I've taken some really wonderful walks outside in the cold. So I think despite the weather, this is always an option. Maybe more accessible to certain people and at certain times of the year, but being outside is so liberating, and you can really just kind of let go of your fears and your stress and whatever's on your mind. Another thing I would recommend is to embrace your artistic side. And even for those of you who don't feel like you have an artistic side, you do, trust me. I, for example, never painted, never considered myself a painter, nothing. And a friend of mine introduced me to it during the pandemic, and she was getting big into it, and I was like, I guess I'll try it. Not only did I really enjoy it, I created some pieces that I'm actually very proud of, and that if you had shown past me those paintings, I would have not believed that I painted them. I didn't realize I was capable of creating something like that with paint on a canvas. So I think there's so much to explore when it comes to artistic abilities, and going into it just with the intention of having fun and occupying our mind and our body for a little while is really good, not going into it with these high expectations of ourselves. I don't know what's going on with my throat right now. Another thing that I think is a great thing to do when you are feeling bored and alone is to cook or bake something. I love to do this, and again, several years ago, I never cooked, never baked. Okay, I baked here and there, but cooking was off the table for me. I had no interest. And then as I got more into my health and fitness journey, I started to cook and learn how to cook, and it's still a learning process. I am not a pro chef. I think if you watched my recent cooking video, you'll be able to see that. But I do have a lot of fun with it, and there's so many recipes online that give you a step by step, and it's really fun to try and make something new and see how it goes. So that is something I highly recommend as well. Another idea that I recently came across and that I've never actually tried, but I think is really cool, is to write a letter to your future self. I did something similar to this where I created a video that I filmed back in January talking about where I'm at in life right now and where like the things I hope to accomplish in the year. And then next January 2024, I'm gonna kind of film a response to that video. So that's kind of a similar idea. But yeah, writing a letter or creating a video for your future self is really cool because so many things can change in just a year. And I don't know, that would just be a really cool thing to create and think about and then keep and then look back on in the future. So I think that's a very cool idea that I want to explore more myself. Other than that, I think self-care in the sense of doing like setting up a little spa for yourself, taking a bubble bath, doing a face mask, painting your nails, whatever self-care looks like for you, that is something that is very enjoyable to do alone. And I think anything that falls under the realm of taking care of yourself and making yourself feel good is a very powerful way to spend your time when you're feeling bored and alone. I think the times where we're bored and alone, it's like a call from ourselves to connect with ourselves more deeply, and taking care of yourself and relaxing in a bath is a really powerful way to do that. So highly recommend taking advantage of those options. Another idea is to listen to a podcast. I have recently gotten really into podcasts again, and I was a couple years ago, and there are some really good ones out there that I think whether you want to lose yourself in a story, I know there are podcasts about murder mysteries and such, and people are so into murder shows that I know that's a really big thing. I don't know if I have an intense imagination and I don't really want that to manifest in other areas of my life where I'm like constantly thinking about murders. And personally, when I'm alone, I don't really want to delve into a murder story mystery because it'll just freak me out. But some people are really into that, so there are podcasts on that. I personally like educational podcasts or self growth and improvement, like motivational speeches podcasts, but there's so many podcasts out there, so podcasts are a really good thing to have on hand. And lastly, this is an idea that was inspired by a friend of mine who recently posted a video on Instagram where she read a poem that she had wrote, and then she talked about how the inspiration for the poem came through being bored and alone and not really knowing what to do with herself, and making a conscious decision to sit in that boredom and literally do nothing, and eventually that bred this creativity and this inspiration to write this really beautiful, powerful poem that she shared. And so that inspired me to think about, oh, maybe it's a good idea to, have things that you can do when you're bored and draw from those, but sometimes maybe just sit in the boredom and see what comes from that. I think that we live in a society where there is such a need for instant gratification, and it's so easy to just pull out our phone and immediately have all this entertainment right before us on so many different sites, like too much entertainment, and it's to a point where it's kind of overwhelming and our brains are overstimulated with all this different stuff. And so I think in that we have lost the beauty in being bored and just doing nothing and being okay with that. And so, yeah, my friend's post about this just really inspired me to think about how there is a lot of beauty in boredom, and it's not something to be afraid of, and it's not something to run away from and try to escape at all costs. I think that some really great things can come from being bored, and I think that we don't experience that very much these days because it's so easy to distract ourselves from boredom. So, maybe there is something amazing that can come from just sitting with the boredom next time you feel bored and seeing where it takes you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and for checking out this video. I appreciate you so much. Please like and comment on this video if you feel inclined, if it resonated with you, and I will see you soon.